Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Cabinet approves Vibrant Villages Program second for financial years 2024-25 to 2028-29. Supreme Court lays key principles for handling challenges in government employment appointments. 6th BIMSTEC Summit concluded in Bangkok under the chairmanship of Thailand. India-Thailand inked joint declaration towards establishing strategic partnership. SC orders probe into violations of forest and wildlife laws in Tamil Nadu's Agastyamalai landscape. In a significant move towards strengthening border development, the Cabinet has approved the Vibrant Villages Program second or VVP second for the financial years 2024-25 to 2028-29. Now, this latest phase builds upon the foundation laid by VVP1, which was focused on border villages along the northern frontier. This initiative clearly highlights India's commitment to Viksit Bharat at 2047, with an emphasis on ensuring safe, secure, and self-sufficient land borders. Let's first look at how the border population is a strategic asset. There are multiple reasons. Firstly, they serve as a source of local knowledge, offering vital insights on environmental conditions and cross-border activities through established local networks. They also contribute significantly through informal surveillance. Nomads and shepherds, for instance, act as early warning systems for detecting border transgressions, as seen in the case of Tashi Namgyal during the Kargil War. In addition, these populations provide essential logistical support, with remote border villages assisting patrolling forces by offering food, shelter, and labor. Another key role is in reinforcing territorial claims. Settled populations in disputed areas help fortify territorial claims, aligning with frameworks like Article 7 of the 2005 India-China Agreement. Over the years, several development efforts have supported these regions, including the Border Area Development Program launched in 1986-87, the Model Village Initiative introduced in 2005-06, and the Smart Model Village Development Effort rolled out in 2015. Now, what exactly is VVP second all about? Let's break it down. The Vibrant Villages Program second is a central sector scheme, which means it will receive 100% funding from the centre, unlike VVP1, which was a centrally sponsored scheme. In terms of coverage, VVP second targets strategic villages along international land borders across 17 states and union territories, excluding the northern border blocks already covered under VVP1 in 2023-24. Now coming to the main objective. The program aims to improve living conditions, generate livelihoods opportunities, control trans-border crime, and most importantly, integrate populations as eyes and ears for internal security. Let's now look at the key features that define VVP second. First, we have infrastructure development. This includes investments in roads, housing, sanitation, drinking water, and smart classrooms. Crucially, it ensures all-weather road connectivity under the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Next, the program will focus on value chain and livelihood development, providing support for cooperatives, self-help groups, and border-specific outreach activities aimed at creating sustainable livelihoods. Then, we have the welfare scheme convergence component, which means existing welfare schemes will be implemented in the identified villages, ensuring full coverage through a convergence model. Moving on, there's also a cultural and tourism angle. The program plans to organize fairs, festivals, awareness camps, and National Day celebrations, all aimed at boosting tourism and promoting local heritage. And to ensure seamless execution, the government will be leveraging the PM Gati Shakti platform for effective implementation of the project. With these comprehensive features, VVP second marks a strong step forward in transforming India's strategic border villages into vibrant hubs of growth and security. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court has laid down 4 key principles for courts to follow while handling challenges related to government employment appointments. This comes as the court upheld the quashing of nearly 25,000 staff appointments made by the West Bengal School Selection Commission (SSC) in 2016, a move grounded in concerns over the integrity of the selection process. Let's start by understanding standards of proof. The term preponderance of probabilities refers to the degree of certainty where a tribunal believes that a fact is more likely true than not. This standard is commonly used in civil cases. It differs from proof beyond reasonable doubt, which is a higher standard of proof applied in criminal cases requiring near certainty for a conviction. Now, we turn our attention to the 4 key principles laid down in the state of West Bengal versus Baisakhi Bhattacharya Chatterjee case. First, the court stated that the entire exam result may be cancelled if an in-depth inquiry reveals fraud in the process. This principle draws on the Sachin Kumar and others versus Delhi Subordinate Service Selection Board judgment. However, there is an exception. If it is possible to segregate tainted and untainted candidates, such segregation must be carried out in line with constitutional equity under Article 16, Clause 1 and 14. Second, any decision to cancel a selection en masse must be backed by sufficient material, gathered through a fair and thorough investigation. Now, this material need not prove malpractice beyond doubt, but it should offer reasonable certainty of systemic irregularities based on a probability test. Third, if deep manipulation in the process is proven, then the purity of the process must take precedence over any inconvenience to untainted candidates. And fourth, in situations where large-scale illegalities taint the entire selection process, individual notice and hearing may not be required purely for practical reasons. For these 3 latter principles, the court relied on its decision in state of Tamil Nadu and another versus A. Kalaimani 2021. To provide additional legal context, the court referred to 2 more important cases. In Bihar School Examination Board versus Subhash Chandra Sinha and others, it held that individual hearings may not be necessary when an entire exam is cancelled due to large-scale irregularities. On the other hand, in Vanshika Yadav versus Union of India and others, the Supreme Court refused to cancel the NEET UG 2024 exam, stating that no material evidence suggested systemic flaws affecting the integrity of the examination. With these principles, the Supreme Court has provided clear guidelines for future cases involving challenges to public employment selections, ensuring both fairness and systemic accountability. Moving on, the 6th BIMSTEC Summit has successfully concluded in Bangkok under the chairmanship of Thailand. BIMSTEC, or the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, is a regional organization that was established back in 1997 with the signing of the Bangkok Declaration. It's a sector-driven grouping that brings together 7 member states: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. And it's worth noting that its charter was finalized during the 5th summit held in Sri Lanka in 2022. Now, moving on to the key outcomes of the 6th summit. One of the major highlights was the adoption of the BIMSTEC Bangkok Vision 2030. This is the first ever vision document outlining a strategic plan to build what's being called a prosperous, resilient, and open BIMSTEC, or pro-BIMSTEC, by the year 2030. The focus here is on economic integration, improved connectivity, and enhanced human security. Alongside this, there was also an important agreement on maritime transport cooperation. This aims to strengthen maritime connectivity between South and Southeast Asia, boost logistical efficiency, and bring down trade cost. Now, let's shift the focus to India's contributions and initiatives at the summit. India announced the establishment of BIMSTEC Centers of Excellence to be set up on 4 key areas: disaster management, sustainable maritime transport, traditional medicine, and research and training in agriculture. In addition, India has launched the Bodhi program, which stands for BIMSTEC for Organized Development of Human Resource Infrastructure. This is geared towards skilling the youth through training, scholarships for professionals, students, researchers, and more. Another important move, India will conduct a pilot study on digital public infrastructure to assess its need and potential across the region. To further boost regional integration, India will also be hosting the first ever BIMSTEC Games in 2027, a move aimed at strengthening people-to-people linkages. And finally, to foster economic collaboration, efforts are underway to establish a BIMSTEC Chamber of Commerce with the added initiative of organizing a BIMSTEC Business Summit annually. Now, the contemporary relevance of BIMSTEC can be understood through three key aspects. First, it facilitates quick decision-making, ensuring a greater focus on common regional concerns. Second, it aligns with India's strategic interest, particularly through the expansion of the Act East policy and improved connectivity for India's Northeast. Lastly, BIMSTEC plays a crucial role in trade and security, especially in the Indian Ocean region, amidst the rising influence of China. In a significant diplomatic move, India and Thailand have inked a joint declaration towards establishing a strategic partnership, a step that highlights deepening ties between the two nations. Now, while a strategic partnership may be less formal than an alliance, it is rooted in strong cooperation on shared objectives, primarily in security, but also encompassing trade, economy, and technology. Let's take a look at the significance of this partnership. At the core, it is driven by mutually beneficial goals. Both countries share a strong commitment to a free, open, transparent, rules-based, inclusive, and resilient Indo-Pacific. They also uphold the principle of ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations centrality, which emphasizes the role of ASEAN as the driving force behind the geopolitics or geoeconomics of the region. Another point of strategic value, Thailand is India's maritime neighbor and plays a key role in maintaining regional peace. Further, their foreign policies complement each other, with India's Act East policy aligning seamlessly with Thailand's Act West policy. Thailand also holds a key position in regional and sub-regional groupings. It is a significant partner for India in ASEAN and in the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation or BIMSTEC. Now, let's move to other important agreements that were inked during this engagement. A series of Memorandums of Understanding or MOU was signed, including cooperation in the development of the National Maritime Heritage Complex at Lothal and in the development of India's Northeastern region under the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region or MDONER. To facilitate people-to-people contact, the two nations also announced the establishment of an India-Thailand consular dialogue. In the area of trade facilitation, both sides are exploring the establishment of a local currency-based settlement mechanism aimed at boosting trade efficiency and resilience. And finally, here's a quick overview of India-Thailand relations. Diplomatic relations between the two nations date back to 1947. On the economic front, bilateral trade reached approximately $15 billion in 2023-24. In terms of defense cooperation, joint military exercises such as Exercise Maitri and Indo-Thai Corpat further reinforce strategic ties. In a significant development, the Supreme Court has ordered a probe into violations of forest and wildlife laws in Tamil Nadu's Agastyamalai landscape. This case revolves around the encroachment of the Singampatti Zameen forest lands which were cleared for plantation cultivation, specifically for tea, coffee and rubber. Now moving on to the legal status of the land. These lands were declared part of the Kalakkad Mundanthurai Reserved Forest in 1978, later designated as a core critical tiger habitat in 2007, and finally as a wildlife sanctuary and tiger reserve in 2012. These declarations ultimately led to the eviction of tea estate workers. India's forests are governed by a network of laws aimed at conservation and sustainable management. The foundation of this legal framework lies in the forest classification as defined by the India Forest Act 1927 and subsequent state forest acts. The classification categorizes forest into reserved forest, which enjoy the highest degree of protection where all activities are prohibited unless explicitly permitted. Protected forest, which have a limited degree of protection where activities are permitted unless specifically prohibited. And unclassed forest, which are recorded as forest but don't fall under the reserved or protected categories, with ownership varying across states. Complementing this classification is the Forest Conservation Act 1980, which mandates that any use of forest land for non-forestry purposes requires prior approval from the Government of India, ensuring that forest land is not indiscriminately diverted. Furthermore, the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 focuses on safeguarding wildlife, particularly through the establishment of tiger reserves. These reserves are classified into core or critical habitat areas which are kept inviolate without affecting the rights of scheduled tribes and other forest dwellers, and buffer or peripheral areas which have a lesser degree of habitat protection and promote coexistence between wildlife and human activity. Now, what did the Supreme Court observe in the case of A. John Kennedy versus State of Tamil Nadu and others? Let's break that down. The court emphasized that forests are the lungs of the ecosystem, and their depletion has a direct impact on climate change and biodiversity. It also noted that around 13,000 square kilometers of forest land in India is currently under encroachment, as per data from the Environment Ministry. The court further highlighted the importance of maintaining a healthy tiger population, calling it vital for ecosystem balance. Citing the famous T.N. Godavarman case, the bench reminded us that the tiger perishes without the forest and the forest perishes without its tigers. In another key reference, the court endorsed an ecocentric approach over an anthropocentric one, as laid out in the recent State of Telangana versus Muhammad Abdul Qasim 2024 ruling. Now, for some background on the Agastyamalai landscape itself. This region includes the Periyar Tiger Reserve, Srivilliputhur Grizzled Squirrel Wildlife Sanctuary, Meghamalai and Thirunelveli Wildlife Sanctuaries. Interestingly, 14 rivers including the Thamirabarai River flow through this ecologically rich landscape. And speaking of its global importance, the Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve is part of the World Network of Biosphere Reserves under the Man and Biosphere or MAB program of UNESCO. Geographically, it is located in the southern Western Ghats, spanning both Tamil Nadu and Kerala. The reserve comprises 3 wildlife sanctuaries in Kerala, Chendurni, Peppara and Neyar, along with the Kalakkad Munnanthurai Tiger Reserve in Tamil Nadu. In today's Place in News, we turn our focus to Greenland with its capital, Nuuk. In a firm political statement, Denmark's Prime Minister has called for stronger Arctic defense collaboration while rejecting any US ambitions to annex Greenland, which remains a semi-autonomous Danish territory. Let's take a quick look at Greenland's key features. Located in the North Atlantic Ocean, Greenland is the world's largest island. Its nearest neighbor is Canada's Ellesmere Island, which is located 16 miles to the north, and its closest European neighbor is Iceland. Now, coming to its geographical features, about 2/3 of Greenland lies above the Arctic Circle, and the Arctic climate supports a massive ice sheet covering nearly 80% of the island. In fact, it's the second largest ice sheet in the world, next only to Antarctica. And why is Greenland so strategically important? Well, its location is crucial for Arctic geopolitics, especially with the presence of a US military base. Add to that the prospects of future trans-Arctic shipping routes and its rich deposits of rare earth elements, oil and gas, freshwater resources and fisheries. Greenland continues to gain global attention. As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. The Lok Sabha was adjourned sine die, ending the budget session. Sine die is a Latin term meaning without assigning a day for a further meeting. In parliamentary terms, adjournment sine die refers to the end of a session of parliament without setting a date to reconvene. Supreme Court in State of Jharkhand versus Rukma Kesh Mishra clarified that Article 311 Clause 1 does not mandate appointing authorities' approval to initiate disciplinary proceedings against a state employee. Although Article 311 Clause 1 requires the appointing authority's approval for dismissal. Quad Partnership on Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Relief released a joint statement to assist after earthquake in Myanmar. Quad is a partnership between Australia, India, Japan and the United States that traces its origin to the Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004. CSIR, or Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, National Aerospace Laboratories or NAL, Science Technology Transfer Deal with a private firm to manufacture Hansa trainer planes. This would be the first time an aircraft is manufactured in India based on technology fully designed and developed indigenously. A study for detecting zoonotic spillover in bird-human interaction settings using the One Health approach was launched by the Indian Council of Medical Research or ICMR. Zoonotic spillover is the transmission of a pathogen from a vertebrate animal to a human. One Health approach helps prevent and respond to global health threats. Council for Scientific and Industrial Research or CSIR, Indian Institute of Integrative Medicine or IIIM, Field Station Bonera, Jammu seeks to indigenize tulips. Indira Gandhi Memorial Tulip Garden in Srinagar is the largest tulip garden in Asia. Tulips are native to Central Asia and Turkey and they belong to the lily family. The Assam cabinet has decided to drop cases against the Koch Rajbongshi community in various foreigners' tribunals or FTs. Koch Rajbongshi community trace their roots to the Kamata kingdom ruled by Koch dynasty, comprising parts of present-day Assam, West Bengal, Nepal and Bangladesh. Indian Prime Minister recently visited the Wat Pho temple. It is a Buddhist temple located in Ratanakosin Island, Bangkok, renowned for the 46-meter-long gold-plated reclining Buddha, representing the Buddha entering complete spiritual enlightenment. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions through the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.